Good morning, everyone. This is the Do-It-Yourself Usability Research Workshop. My name is Whitney Kotlewski. I'm a senior UX architect. I'm a part of the Esri Creative Lab. I primarily work with location analytics products, so I've been working on the Insights web application from the ground up. And today we're hopefully going to be able to give you guys some really good insights and techniques on things to ask your users, ways to validate your designs and to validate the user experience in your products.
Hi, Kyle Jones. I'm a UX architect at Esri, and I work on Esri.com.
Hi everyone, my name is Zhang. I'm a UX architect for ArcGIS Online, mainly doing interface design, user research for online and JavaScript API.
All right, so just kind of a quick overview of what's going to be covered for the few minutes that you're with us. We're going to try to define what usability research is, look at ways for planning that study and test, looking at scenarios. Sometimes people get a little questions about really what is a scenario and what's the difference between a scenario and a task. So we'll talk through ways that you can actually write out a good scenario. We'll talk about facilitating a usability research study. And with that, the best practices, things to ask for, things to look for. And then also, too, on that end, observers. So what are observers actually supposed to do? What are their role? What is their role? And then we'll look at ways to analyze those results, kind of the best practices for things that you should be sharing out to your team. And then we'll jump into a nice hands-on activity. And with this activity, we're going to be having people be participants, moderators, and observers. So we're hoping that people will kind of let loose, feel a little free with that, and want to participate in that activity with us. All right, so what is usability research? Really, it's around just validating, verifying the user experience in your product using real use cases with real users. So that's the main thing that you have to get, is that we're not make-believing, we're not making up a fictional character, we're actually talking to real people, getting real feedback. Another way to call this out is that it's a way to find out what's working and what's not working. We all know our good friend Clippy. And Microsoft, though it was a good idea of having inline virtual assistants, it's the cadence as to which that assistance was appearing. So it's a bit annoying. I know if you go and do a Google search, there's even some crazy ones out there where there's like a suicide note and there's like Clippy coming up saying, "Can I help you write this letter?" So yeah, there's some. We didn't want to use that one, but yeah, there's some ways to validate that. Microsoft did a great job with their ribbon over time, as you guys have even seen it evolve, where there was entry points where people weren't even touching on buttons because there's just too many icons. And just really finding out what are the pain points, what are the areas where people really are wanting to click on, what are the key features that they're accessing. So let's jump into why it's useful. So there's a few reasons for why, but the biggest one is that users are unpredictable. We would love to say, especially even as designers, that we know everything that our users want, and that our assumptions are always correct, but that is not the case. So we have to talk to them. We have to find out what are their needs, what are their pain points. All right, so I'm going to pass this over to Tao to talk about planning a usability test.
Okay. So this is the process in a nutshell. So first, we need to identify what designs we want to validate, right? We need to understand what do we mean by, what do we mean if a design is really good enough? And then, do we have any specific questions we want to get feedback from the users? Normally, we should have a good understanding of those objectives. If not, we will usually talk to our stakeholders and get some the most up-to-date understanding. And then the next step is to identify participants. Usually it works the best if we can get real target users, those people who will be using those designs. The second option is to get internal people or colleagues who can pretend to be the real user, but that's kind of the second option for you. And then the third step is to invite observers. Observers could be designers, developers, product managers, or anyone who is involved in the design and development process. The reason we want to get observers is we want to expose them to the first real user experience, how user will be using the designs, because it's hard to imagine what real users would do with the design. So it's kind of really beneficial to get those people kind of just to see how users are working with the designs. And then also we want to write a testing plan. the test plan is not a super detailed document. It's just a game plan. It outlines the things you need to do, the task you want to ask the participant to complete in the test. So this gives you kind of the document that you can kind of stick with when you're moving on in the process. And then the test sessions could be really short, like 5 minutes, just a short survey or a couple questions. It could be relatively longer, like 1 hour. But anything longer than 1 hour, we don't recommend that. One reason is because people usually get tired after 1 hour of talking, and then it's pretty hard to schedule sessions longer than 1 hour with a lot of users. And then the last thing is to analyze the results and sharing the results back to the stakeholders, which Kyle will be talking about in a moment. So let's talk a little bit about the testing plan. Really, it's a simple structure that we use at Esri. So usually the introduction talks about what we want to know from the test, kind of encourage the participant to talk about what they see, things they don't understand, things they don't like, and then encourage them to think out loud, ask any questions at any time. And then the background is we kind of want to understand what users do in their daily life related to our products, any expectations, any things they want to say about the existing product. And then the scenarios tasks are the things you want participants to do. It could be some kind of workflows or things they want to explore. And then the wrap-ups just kind of get a general understanding or general impression from the participant, what they like about this product, what they don't like about this design. So scenarios is the kind of the background or the context of the tasks. So when we come up with the scenarios, we often go back and ask our stakeholders to give us a list of general goals the product want to achieve with users. What is the purpose of the product, right? What the user wanted to do with this product? Then we write up scenarios based on those goals. And the tasks are the ways to achieve those goals. So we'll touch on a couple examples for the scenario tasks. But I want to talk a little bit about the types of tasks. You could have first impression tasks. For example, you design a product page or home page. You just want to know what people's first impression of this new design. And then the second type of task is exploratory tasks. You don't have a specific goal, but you want people to explore the design. For example, you ask people to upgrade their smartphone, right? So you need to find a good Android phone. So you need to go to your website and explore different products and find the best one. But you don't want them to just choose a specific one. Anyone will work for them. So you want to observe how people explore those product information. And in this workshop, we'll be focused on the third type of task, directed tasks. So we give participants a specific goal, but we don't tell them how to achieve that goal. They have to figure out, they have to follow the tasks we give them, but we don't give them step-by-step instructions. So moving on to the task, we need to make the task specific. We don't want to give them unrealistic tasks or things they don't normally do in their daily lives. Then the participant will not give us realistic feedback because those will be the things that they're not familiar with, right? And then the second thing is we want to make the task actionable. So we don't want to just ask them, what would you do if you are in this situation? We want to observe. So it's important to ask them to start working on the design, start looking at the design, explore the different parts of the design. And then the last one is avoid giving cues or step-by-step instructions. For example, if we want to ask them to click on the top navigation menu, click on the help to find the information about the help, then we wouldn't know whether the location of the help makes sense to the user, right? So we want to explore them, ask them to find the help menu, and then click on the help menu. So example tasks. Can anyone tell me which one is better in terms of giving the task to the participant in a usability test? The lower one, right? The reason is the lower one has more details. It gives a user a proper context. The participant will kind of put this person's hat and then put on this person's hat and then really start doing this task. The top one is too general. The user won't know how to start. The user won't know the final state or final goal of this task.
Real quick, Tao. Another thing too to point out is that many times with the usability test, you're timed out. So you have maybe 30-minute sessions, 45-minute sessions, an hour-long session. So you don't want your user, if you're not really interested in if they can figure out where they're going and the date as to which they want to leave, then you don't want them spending like 15 minutes deciding, oh, I want to go to New York, and maybe, oh no, maybe I want to go to California. You know, you just want to give them that information. Right. It's not a test to figure out where you want to go. So you don't want to waste time on things that are not really significant to you and your team. They're not going to be actionable items for you and your team. So make sure that you can kind of help them with that process and not make them sit around guessing things that are irrelevant to your team.
Right. So let's talk a little about recruiting participants. Like I said, participants should be target real users of the products. By understanding a lot of situations, it's pretty hard to get those users. So one thing we do a lot at Esri is we recruit customers from our sales and marketing department. We also have an early adopters community. I encourage everyone here to join the community to kind of give us feedback early on at the design stage to make our products, our user experience better for you. And also, kind of the last result or the second option is to identify people in your organization that can work as potential users. So we do a lot of testing with our support services colleagues because they interact with our customers on a daily basis. They are not a real user, but they know enough about real user to give us valuable feedback. And then we usually provide some kind of incentives like Amazon gift card or free gifts, t-shirts, those kind of things. Just kind of appreciate people's time to give us feedback. So on this figure here on the lower right corner, this is kind of the typical setup we have at Esri. So we usually have two rooms. The testing room is where the moderator, the person that guides the participant throughout the test session, with the user, they work on the computer, and we have some remote software that can watch the screen and listen to the voice from the testing room in a separate observation room. And we have observers in our room taking notes, kind of understand the situation and get a first-hand experience from the participants. But really, you can do you can do the usability testing anywhere. You don't have to have this typical setup. You can just grab an iPad and take some get notepad and pen and just go out and talk to people, get their feedback. And the prototype could be anything that you have at your development process. Could be either a paper prototype, PowerPoint slides, or screenshots, or JavaScript prototypes. So you can test pretty much anything. And usually we recommend recording the session using the software, like we use Moray, TextMeets Moray. I heard people also use Google Hangout to record the session. The recording is really for you to go back and make sure you catch everything that participants said. And also it's good to create some highlight videos, like 1-minute video to show a particular usability issue to your stakeholders. That's really powerful compared to like just write a text-based test report. And then we talk about the scenario tasks. We usually give the participant a physical copy of the scenarios so they can just follow and read out the scenario, make sure they understand the purpose of the scenarios. And then the personnel, we talk about having the moderator guiding the participant, and then encouraging people from the product team, the designer, developer, come out and observe the sessions. Okay, I'll hand over to Kyle.
All right, thanks, Tom. So once you have all the planning done and have recruited your participants, there's some key things to keep in mind, both as a moderator and an observer in a usability test. So for the moderator, there's several responsibilities. First is just try to be relaxed, right? So like, how many of you guys have participated in a usability test before, or any other kind of user research, right? Yeah, so it's a pretty awkward experience. People are watching you. It's not something you normally do. And if you're maybe rushed or trying to work through some things, try to prepare and things like that for the test, that can, affect the way that your participants are interacting and reading the tasks and interacting with your interface. So it's really important just to kind of be relaxed, greet them, be chatty, and just kind of help make the situation less awkward than it already is. And also use just kind of simple language about why they're here and what they're doing, right? So, hey, thanks for coming. We're here to figure out how this new navigation system is working. Try to get some feedback on that. And this is part where you can also, part of the kind of early part of the test where you can, if you have an NDA that they need to sign or get any other kind of informed consent, then you can do that during this part as well. And it's also good to just keep in mind that you're dealing with, you might be dealing with private information or personal information, so just respect the privacy of your participants, understand how that information is going to be used, and if they have any questions, be able to answer those. Or if you have an NDA, right? So protecting the confidentiality of the interface or designs you're working with. And also, people might get frustrated in these tests. So, or you might get frustrated trying to moderate it and spend all these months and all these hours putting into this product or web page or something like that, and it can be kind of tricky to kind of keep a cool face and or try to calm them down if they feel like they're getting really frustrated and feel like they're not answering the task correctly. It's always really important to just remind people that you're testing the interface, you're not testing them, so they can't do anything wrong. So that's a key thing that I've learned to be able to kind of reiterate is just you can't do anything wrong for the next 30 or 40 minutes or however long. You can't make any mistakes. And keeping track of time is a big one. If you have several people lined up, or if people are trying to, you're trying to meet with people during their work days or schedules and things like that, it's just important to keep track of the time to make sure you're not going too long. But also if things are going by too fast. If it seems like, wow, the last person took 30 minutes and this person's almost done and we've only been here for 15, there might be some things that they're missing, right? Or you might be able to kind of try to slow them down and ask a few more kind of probing questions. Another key thing is, since we can't be inside people's heads, and lots of times when we use these interfaces in our day-to-day lives, we're not thinking these things out loud all the time, it's really important to ask people to kind of think out loud. So that's another thing to kind of set up at the beginning, but also as you're going through, just when you kind of notice them being quiet, say, oh, what are you thinking? What are you trying to look for? Just kind of these little questions like that to help them just voice what's going on in their heads. And it's really important to listen carefully to how they're reading the tasks or what they're saying as they're thinking aloud and navigating through the interface. You can watch it's really important to watch their body language, like if they move in or lean back or they're doing things like that, or as well as watching where their mouse is moving on the screen. If it seems like they're kind of using the cursor to follow along where they're reading, or they're hovering over something but don't click it. Those are kind of the things you can be like, oh, what were you expecting to see there? What made you move away from that? Some of these kinds of follow-up kind of probing questions to try to get at that why behind that behavior. So for observers, some of the same rules apply, but there's also, because you're not right there with the participant, there's a few other things that are good to keep in mind. If you have a video and you're being able to kind of watch them as they're interacting, watching for those facial cues, right? So people oftentimes will squint when they're trying to focus and concentrate on something, or their eyes light up when something cool happens. Those are the really good things to jot down. Another thing is pay attention to those words that they're using, right? If something feels slow or clunky, or this feels too formal, like that kind of descriptive language is really helpful to understand how people are perceiving these interactions. And then those things also come into play later on when you try to communicate your findings. So you can kind of have those really good phrases and snippets and things like that are the voice of the user. And as you're kind of sitting there, outside of the test area, we call them head slappers or shocks. So you're kind of sitting there with your other colleagues or stakeholders or other engineers or designers, and something happens like, oh, why didn't we think of that? And so you got to be sure to kind of write those things down. Or you just are sitting there flabbergasted that someone did not see this big button that's at the bottom of the screen. Well, why is this happening? and look for that passion or inspiration that users can show as well. So if they seem really excited, something lights up their face, or if they say, oh, this would have been, I finally found this thing down here, but I would have expected to see that up there. Like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's try to work through that. And some of the kind of key questions as you're kind of maybe winding down the scenario or the testing session or starting to kind of look through your notes is, okay, so did they get it? Were the things that we were trying to test, did it seem like those features, interactions, or navigation systems, those things like that, did it seem like they get it? Even if maybe they didn't find the right content or something like that, can they still find their way around? Is the navigation still okay? And remember, like I said, sometimes you have invested so much in this that hearing or watching people kind of fail to do these tasks that seem really easy to you because you know it inside and out can be a little disheartening. So it's really just important to go in there with thinking not like, oh, what are we going to find wrong, but okay, what do we have to do to make it right? What do we have to do to fix this? Make the next step. And keep in mind that in this testing environment, you're seeing people's best behavior. They're paying more attention than they normally would in their day-to-day life, and they're really trying to focus really hard. So keep that in mind too. So if they especially don't get it in this scenario, in this kind of context where they're really trying, then and people out in the real world in their offices or in their homes might have even more difficulty. And focus a lot on what people are doing and how they voice their experiences, right? So they may offer an opinion, like I always prefer to see this info up here, and try to balance that with, okay, well you kept scrolling past that, and try to balance those opinions versus how they actually are interacting and behaving with the interface. That's a big thing, is trying to balance what they're doing versus what they're saying. And then when you, to analyze results, there's lots of different ways you can do this, and depending on what your timeline is and what your resources are and what you're testing, it's really helpful to just kind of pull the team together after the test and after the participant leaves and they get their incentive, kind of bring everyone in and say, okay, let's compare notes real quick. We have 15 minutes before the next one. Let's compare notes and kind of get everyone's different observations and notes and pull them all together. And then as you kind of go through that, you can start looking for patterns, right? So what are the things that people seem to get no problem? What are the big or common mistakes that were being made? What things were total showstoppers, right? It's like, oh man, this was the core feature of the product and no one knows how it works. And being able to kind of work on that kind of priority of things you need to start working on fixing. And also kind of start compiling those comments and those quotes from participants that become really helpful when you share your findings. So especially if you're using video recording, that's also really great. You can get some screenshots or use small highlights of things from the test and to show to your stakeholders and product owners and whoever else is on the project that, oh, this is really how people were interacting with this. It really helps humanize, right, the people that are going to be using these things. And this is really your chance to use these findings to help balance the different opinions that might be going on in the project, right? So this is your chance to advocate for that user experience and that user perspective when you have maybe 5 different opinions on how something should be. It's like, well, this is how people reacted to it when we put it in front of them. All right.
All right, thanks, Kyle. I actually wanted to note one more thing, too. A lot of times we talk about usability, and people will cringe because they're like, oh, no, they're going to be giving me critical feedback about our application, and not everyone wants to hear the negative. But they can also be a way to highlight the positive. I know, there's things where, especially if you're recording things with video, you can see people's facial expressions, and they'll be like, I just love this. And that is like the greatest thing to hear. You want to give that to your developers. You want to share that with your stakeholders, because because that's very key information to say we are doing a job well done. So usability testing can also be a way to kind of uplift your team, especially if, for instance, you guys might have an assumption and you'd maybe try to take a risk somewhere with a feature, and people loved it though. I know with the Insights product, we had a lot of risky moves, but things like the flippy stuff, like with the cards, people would tend to like it, and it's great to hear that. But it could have went wrong. People could have said that it was going to be negative, but it was good to see that that was well appreciated. That interaction was well appreciated. So it can be a really good thing. So we're going to jump into this 20-minute activity, group activity. We're going to be taking a look at the ArcGIS Web Scene Viewer. Are people familiar with the ArcGIS Web Scene Viewer at all? No? Okay, so we got some really new users with that. So has anyone ever used Google Maps? 2D, 3D. All right, so now you guys are all familiar with the ArcGIS Web Scene Viewer. We're going to be having some people mimic moderators, some people mimic participants, and then the rest of the group will be observers. For my observers, I'm really leaning on you guys to really look at the patterns, look at the key pain points, and hopefully we're going to be calling upon you at the end of all of this for you to kind of give us your observation of everything that took place in the interaction, all right? We'll be using a test plan. So Tal talked about this earlier during his session on planning a usability test. And so it'll consist of an introduction, a scenario with tasks from 1 to 3. So we're only looking at one scenario with some actual actionable tasks for this. And then we'll have a wrap-up session as well. Alrighty, so with that being said, I need 4 moderators. People who are going to be probing questions. All right, I got one over here. All right, I need 3 more. I'm going to start picking on people. 2, you helped us with music earlier. So 3, 4. All righty, so Tal's going to be passing you guys a test packet. We've highlighted the moderator kind of questions, but I'm encouraging you guys to also ad-lib. So if you feel like you want to ask additional questions, feel free to do so. All right, so now I need 3 participants. These are people who are actually going to be in the driver's seat up here. 1, 2. I need 1 more. 1 more. He was a moderator, right? Yeah. I need 1 more participant. 3. All right. So I got 3 participants. Can you guys keep your hands raised so we can get you guys a test packet? This is really what you're getting, and you guys can keep all of these. You can take them back with you so you have examples of the types of questions and everything. For the participants, you guys have a generic test packet. It's just the scenario of what to do, and then you go right into the task. So there's nothing special too much about yours. And then the rest of you guys are observers. So let's actually kind of hand you guys out some observer packets as well. And Kyle, can you help them with that? All right, so can I get my participant 1? So who was a participant again? Okay, can I get you actually to start? So you're gonna come up here to the driver's seat, if you don't mind. What's your name? Jeff. Jeff, all right, Jeff. So have you sit up here.
This is stressful.
Don't be stressed out. If a participant feels that way, just tell them you're in a safe place. You cannot fail. There's no wrong answer. You get some swag after that for participating, so that's always good. Let me get you, I'm actually going to pull up the link for you. All right. Is anyone missing a test packet at all, even if you're an observer and you're just kind of watching this go down? All right, everybody has it? Okay. Alan, thank you, Andy. So if you guys can actually flip your page over to the second page, there is an introduction. This introduction is typically what we like to use at Esri when we're doing very formal tests, but you don't necessarily have to have such a long, in-depth introduction. Really what it consists of is it tells you about, why you're here today. So Jeff, you're here today to look at the ArcGIS Web Scene Viewer. This is going to take a few minutes. We have 15 minutes listed here, but it's going to take probably shorter than that for you to do your task. This is a safe place. You cannot fail. We're testing the application, not you. You want to make sure at this time, too, if there's any NDA things that you can mention that to them, as well as if you're going to be recording them. So some people freak out because they're like, oh, no, I'm getting my cameo. And I've seen people adjust their hair, and they're like, oh, no, But let them know that this is only for you and your team. This is not for them to end up on Instagram or Twitter or anything like that. And then after that, you're going to try to get some demographic information. This is very key because as we go to analyze our usability feedback, we want to make sure that we can bucket the responses. So if you have someone particularly that might be an expert, then you might get some expert feedback, and that might make sense. When you look at all the data, you go, okay, well, this person was pretty knowledgeable, this makes sense. Whereas you might get someone who comes in, they have no experience with the application whatsoever, they would never be your typical user at all, and they're also complaining about everything, and they want to redesign it from the start. You can kind of take that with a grain of salt. You know up front, when you looked at their demographic information, that they weren't really your user. They're basically here just to complain and redesign the application. And so when you look at that, you can go, okay, maybe we'll consider it, but it's not maybe a critical thing that we need to take into account when we bring this back to our team. Alrighty? So after that's done, you like to ask them, is there any more questions? Are you nervous? Or, do you have any more questions before we begin?
No, let's go ahead.
All right, so they're ready to go ahead. So then now, Jeff, can you turn to the second page, the next page? All right, awesome. And can you read out loud the first text there that starts with as an ArcGIS user? And then I want you to read task 1, okay? And then actually perform that task.
Okay.
The first moderator.
And who's our first moderator? We'll go with this guy right here. Okay, awesome. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so as an ArcGIS user, your license includes a subscription to ArcGIS Online. You want to explore its 3D capabilities. So task 1, use the bookmark in your browser labeled ArcGIS My Scene to open the application and explore the interface. Tell us what you see. So ArcGIS My Scene. Yeah, so that's what we have. And then moderator, so that's you.
Yeah.
So
Actually, you can look at this one if you want. That doesn't have the moderator questions. Here you go.
So you see, basically you see the HUD. You have a 3D visualization. You have a home button. You have a zoom in button. Zoom out. This first switching. See, this one is odd. Oh yeah, like this. So right-clicking the mouse can change the perspective.
All right. Is there anything on the interface that isn't immediately obvious?
Right at this point, no. The visual is pretty good. Like this is, house means get back to home. As a more experienced user, you would say, oh, well, maybe I don't want to have home be this one. Maybe I would like to have it from Africa or something. So how do you set that up?
Right.
Then you have to search. That would be something. What about this one? What does this do? Not so sure what it does.
What would you expect for it to do?
One thing would be interesting is, for instance, if you would have this sort of, there you go, toggle to pan or rotate in 3D. So, okay. So basically, not sure what the, what is the difference between this guy and this guy?
Good question.
He's a pro.
So that's this part. What about this, San Diego? What does this do? Let's try it out. Oh, so we change.
You're so smart, you've started task 2.
Did I?
You did.
Oh, I
Why don't you
started
read
task 2.
two?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're only doing task 1.
Okay, so let's take home. So we have layers here.
Okay.
San Diego buildings. See, if it's all about San Diego, then I would assume that clicking this house would bring you to San Diego. No, why not? So that's something I would adjust maybe. So I have it's something like this or.
Thank you for your feedback. That was very helpful.
That is helpful.
Very helpful.
Because.
Now, I noticed that you focused mostly on the tools on the left-hand
So
side.
let's try this one. Yeah. So layers. So yeah. let's go in San Diego. What does it do? San Diego. No? I would assume something else would show. Zoom in. Doesn't do anything. Oh, does it? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you have the buildings. Oh yeah. So legend, what's this one? No legend available. Why? Okay, so this is wrong. This, we should have something, no? Okay, so maybe it's coming. So close this guy. So change base layer. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So you can change like all the.
Did that meet your expectation?
Yeah, this one did actually, because I know this software or this kind of software, but
Right.
for someone that doesn't know this kind of stuff, what's the base map? So I would say maybe give a little more description could help. For instance, what about this daylight? Oh yeah, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So you can actually, oh, this is cool. Shading. Oh man. Oh man, I'm getting dizzy now. Okay, so that's one.
So see, that type of interaction, that type of expression, that's important for your team
That's
to be able to
pretty cool,
hear.
yeah.
You know, the wows are important as well.
What about date change? Oh, so it makes it, oh yeah, so for instance, if I change it to summer or something, let's say July. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Cool.
What about this one, sharing? Oh, so you can change it for Facebook stuff. Okay, cool. And then, what's this one, small, medium? Yeah, this is maybe, for someone that knows it, cool, but at this point I don't feel comfortable using it. What is it, large? I guess I have to send it.
It's a good question.
That's a good question. What would you
So,
expect?
yeah, what when you first looked
Maybe
at it, what
some-
did you think it was?
Well, maybe you could have some description on how to use this.
Mhm.
Because again, or maybe have a link to tell you how to use these various tools. Maybe.
Thank you.
Settings. 3D, ArcGIS Pro, default. Okay. And then performance. Quality. What is that? Yeah, so as a user endpoint of view, I would say give some more description on these things. Full screen. Oh yeah. So basically, cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jeff.
Nicely done.
And thank you so much, Cam. Awesome. Thank you so much for being a
That's
moderator. So can I get another moderator and another participant? All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. And we have some swag for you too for that. A poster as well as a globe.
Nice.
All righty. What's your name, sir? Bob. Robert? Rob? All right. Oh, Bob. All right, Bob. Go ahead, escape so he can get in there. If you could read out loud task 2. So hopefully you paid attention. So pretend that you were Jeff just a minute ago. And now you're Bob. And you're going to be doing task 2.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I can hold it for you too as well.
All right.
Task 2. Okay. And you want me to read it out loud?
Yeah.
You want to explore the San Diego area around the convention center. First, find the San Diego Convention Center, and then explore the area around the convention center. What do you see? All right. Well, I happen to know where it is already, so that makes it easy. Yeah, this is it right here. You have to look for Petco Park, you know. And then, then explore the area around it. So, I don't like that navigation. I've already used this already.
I got an easy one. I like it.
It's some challenging questions.
All right.
Yeah, so what else? So we're seeing all the buildings coming in 3D. at least for some of it. Oh, nope, they're coming in. It's the Wi-Fi. So there's some different buildings from the scene service. You can see out in the harbor. And oh, is this the one that you can tour?
Okay. You
Yeah.
can allow me to change it up then. Okay.
It's always fun if you're there.
Can you find the San Diego Zoo pretty quickly?
I think I can, because I think it's in Balboa Park. I suppose if I wanted to,
There we go.
there's the search tool. Yeah, there we go. There, zoom to it. And then there's the zoo right there. Somewhere in here.
Was there any reason why you went to Balboa Park instead of straight to the San Diego Zoo?
Just, that was the relationship I had in my head.
Okay.
Well, awesome, Bob. Expert Bob. Thank you so much. You get some swag. And sometimes you're going to get someone who goes by quickly and they got it, and that's great. It's good confirmation, good validation. You can do some more wrap-up questions with them about maybe things they would like to see to extend the product at that point because they're an expert, and they might just want more features. So you can continue asking questions about things they would like to have to enhance it. You know? All right, so let's get our last participant. Come on up to the driver's seat, and we got our moderator coming up as well. Awesome. All righty, sir, what's your name? Mark? All right, Mark. Oh, moderator? Oh, okay. Yeah, just if you can be a moderator, you can sit right here.
Yeah. My bad.
All righty, let me give you this one just because you have some observer questions in there. So you are going to be doing task 3, Mark.
Okay.
Read that out loud, and then you can begin.
Find the Omni San Diego Hotel and look at it from the north in a 3D perspective. Do you see the ocean? I never use this 3D crap.
That's a great quote.
That's a great quote. That's a great quote. Mind you, we're doing a real usability test. We're using all this feedback to take back to our team.
Where's the NDA? Let's see. That looks right. Okay. Now, look at it from the north in a 3D perspective. Okay, well, I can use that to zoom. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking at it from the south, so that's... Nope, that's not rotating for me, so let's try a different approach. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
How can you tell what direction is north?
Oh, I see. This is showing the. This is showing where what direction I'm looking at, coming from. And I would assume if I'm looking from the north, I'd be seeing these hills.
So that actually is not correct. However, what could we have done here with this north arrow to kind of to help you better understand where north is? What were you thinking? Let's talk through that.
Well, for one thing, I don't know whether the black or the white is the one that's supposed to be pointing north.
What would you prefer if you had a preference of?
I would prefer just a single triangle that shows the direction.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
feedback.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Mark, that was great. Thank you so much. Let's give it up for Mark. Let's give it up also for Steven. All right. So that actually concludes our activity-based things. So you guys, that was pretty good. You guys got a chance to kind of see it in action. We had some expert users. We had, a more novice user, but he gave us great feedback as well. So it's pretty good. Let's kind of jump back into the slide deck. Oh, yes. My observers, I've neglected you. So from the group that actually didn't get a chance to come up here, what were some things that you observed? If we had to take this back to our development team and give them some actionable items, what were some key things you saw?
The search could be kind of more informed about where you are. So as you're typing in Balboa or whatever, it should bring San Diego related stuff, not stuff from Texas.
Your face looks familiar. He was in an all-day workshop with me on Monday. All right, another person that was really good. Yeah. Good point. Any other feedback? Okay, let's start with you and then we'll get you in the back.
So the daylight and shadow slider was intuitive, but the date selector wasn't quite as intuitive in understanding.
Right. Really good point. And you in the back? Yeah. Which is really tricky. That really stopped that last participant, right? Just the way it was the UI of it, yeah.
Where you were able to change the settings of the mouse as to what it does between Pro and Earth or whatever, doesn't really explain very well what it's doing. If you don't have any experience with ArcGIS Pro, you have no idea what you're switching to.
Right. So you're just toggling things and not even know. Yeah. Awesome. Is there any other key feedback that we missed that someone wanted to note?
I'll give you one. Just where the tools are. I mean, all usability research says the user's going to look to the left or to look to the right. But have you got the most important tools in the location that you want the user to interact? So, for example, search probably could be on the left so that someone can actually discover it sooner in their experience. A lot of the tools on the left are things you're going to do with the mouse.
Yeah.
So why would those be the first tools you would want to interact with as opposed to the things you can't do with the mouse?
Really good feedback. Some other things too that you guys can do. I know we use Moray, so there is eye tracking capability as well on that. So if you were curious to find out where are the first places that your users are looking, using a tool like that could help you figure that out. So maybe they say, I'm looking for search, and then they go to the left, and then they have to swing back to the right. And you'll be able to see them doing that every time. So those are some things to help you out too if you're finding out what are the main key places that people are looking as the entry points to some of our features. Cool? All right. So the last point we wanted to make was that with everything, we want to make sure that we're rinsing and we're repeating. It's an iterative process. So you might get this really great feedback. Your team actually puts it to action. You implement it. And then you want to make sure that you're validating that. All right? Sometimes we can overdo it. Sometimes we hear something like with search, and then we make this really crazy extensive search now that probably didn't need to be that way. So we want to make sure that we're always validating these updates, these changes to our interfaces, just to make sure that we didn't either overdo it or maybe we still didn't meet the user need, all right? And I'll pass that to Tao for the last part.
Okay, so the last slides is some of the resources that we think that would be helpful for you. So we have the link for TechSmith Moray, and also there's an article about using Google Hangout for remote usability testing, which is really simple to set up, and then you can kind of you will have the recording capability, and you will also have observers joining the meeting and observe the usability test process. And then if you're using Mac, so the QuickTime player in Mac OS can record the screen, so you don't have to buy another software to record the screen if you're using Mac. And then we highly recommend these two books. The first one is from Smash Magazine, A Field Guide to Usability Testing, and talk about a lot of details that we talk about in the workshop, but we don't have time to kind of go over. Feel free to grab that book. And then the second one is from Steve Krug, who's a usability guru And this is kind of his latest version of the Don't Make Me Think book, which is really famous, like starting 20 years ago. So highly recommend those 2 books and check it out. And then if you have any questions, come back and talk to us. We welcome any kind of discussion on usability research.
All right, so please take our survey. If you can download the Esri Events app and go to Dev Summit and then just select the session you attended, and please give us some nice, great feedback, because I think we did a good job. And also to note, there's this one little workaround. If you guys decide that you don't want to like pay money for a recording system for your usability test, you can use QuickTime. And I've even kind of ramped mine up where I can use the photo booth on my Mac laptop to get their like front impressions, and then I can also do the screen capture. So you can run that simultaneously, and now you've made your fake kind of setup environment. Yes, you have 2 videos that you have to edit and put together, but it's kind of a workaround, bootleg workaround, but you guys can definitely use that as well. All right, so thank you guys, and if you have any more questions, we're gonna be up here for a few minutes.